Welcome to Packmates, a podcast about Magic the Gathering Limited, where we take a deep dive into the current limited formats. The Packmates are a group of friends that love drafting, hanging out, and going to FNM to get those 3 O's. I'm Andrew, the resident mid-range expert.
I'm Ryan, the resident aggro expert.
And I'm Robi, the resident turtle expert.
And
we are the Packmates.
Packmates.
Let's do that again.
Yo, I like it. I like the enthusiasm.
And
we are the Packmates.
Packmates.
Yeah, I like that. And you can follow the Packmates on our various social medias. On TikTok, we're Saruf's Packmates. On Twitter, we're at PackmatesMTG. You can find us on YouTube at Saruf's Packmates. And our podcast is available on Spotify, Amazon, Google, and Castbox. And in this week's episode, we're going to be doing an FNM recap, and we talk about some of the cards we were wrong about in our initial assessments, and cards we are currently stuck on. And for our first segment, Ryan's going to start us off with the FNM recap.
All right. This is the second week in a row, and I'm going to go ahead and ask, why is Ryan starting us off, Andrew?
I believe you may have 3-0'd this week.
Okay. Yeah, your suspicions are indeed correct.
Ah.
All right, so this week I drafted the classic blue-black spells Tolarian Terror deck. We started off with a Choking Miasma, which I'm pretty high on. Sorcery, colorless, double black. Kicker for a green. If it was kicked, you can put a 1/1 counter on a creature you control, and then all creatures get -2/-2. I'm really high on this card. I think you need it in a lot of the late game matchups because those go wide decks are very hard to come back from. Then the main idea of the deck was Tolarian Terrors. That's the 6 colorless and a blue for a 5/5 that costs 1 less for each instant and sorcery in your graveyard. And it also has Ward 2. The Terrors were the big payout, I guess, in my deck. I only had 2 of them. It felt like enough. I think I hit 1 just about every game. The reason I hit 1 every game is because I had 3 impulses. This is a colorless and a blue for an instant. Look at the top 4 of your library and put 1 in your hand, the rest on the bottom in any order. Impulse was an all-star in my deck. It really gave me the tools I needed to pull out some wins that maybe I shouldn't have gotten. I think my deck was very middle-tier deck list. Like, I think if you look at my deck, you're not going to say, oh, that's an easy 3-win deck. Like, that's an easy undefeated FNM deck. I don't think people would see it right away. I certainly didn't. I was disappointed when I built it. I have no rares. I have few uncommons, but the deck was just had just enough utility and card advantage that it could win games. I had 3 impulses, 2 Tolarian Terrors. I also had 2 Tolarian Geysers, which is a 2 colorless blue sorcery with kicker 1 white. You can return a creature to its owner's hand and draw a card, and if it was kicked, you gain 3 life.
Were you able to kick it in this deck?
I kicked it a few times. I only had 2 planes in my deck,
okay.
like 2 sources, but I did kick it a few times. I did put a white-green land in just to kick Choking Miasma and Geyser sometimes.
Did you ever kick Miasma?
Yeah.
I never kicked Miasma, no. Every time I played it, like, I didn't need to kick it, I guess. Like, so Miasma's really good in the black late game Dirtle decks because you just don't play too much stuff that has 2 power, really. And the stuff that you do play that has 2 power, like Phyrexian Ragers, which I had 3 of, and those already got you a card. You know what I mean? It's fine if those die. And I'll just swing with them. Like this week, I swung with the Phyrexian Rager 2/2, and someone blocked with a 3/4, and he had 2 other 2/2s out, and then I just Choking Miasma and wiped his whole board. And it felt pretty good. Yeah. I mean, I swung with it the turn before, and then he just let it through, and then he was getting sick of taking the free 2 damage, and so when he finally blocked it, I just wiped his board. I had Phyrexian Rager, by the way, is the 2 colorless 1 black for the 2/2 that draws you a card and you lose a life when it enters the battlefield. I also had Monstrous Warleech, which Monstrous Warleech was like pretty mediocre in this deck, but it was a 7/7 fairly often. Like, the Tolarian Terror dies or it mills the Tolarian Terror. And so Monstrous Warleech is the 3 colorless and a black for the Star, has kicker blue. And if it was kicked, you mill 4 cards, and then its power and toughness is equal to the highest mana value among cards in your graveyard. Historically, these cards have not been super good, but I think mana value is a key difference. It was not a big deal to kill something with Extinguish the Light, the black murder spell basically for 4 on turn 4, and then Monstrous Warleech on 5, and then it's a 4/4. Like, that was fine. And it just grew throughout the game as my terror died, as I played other things. It just got bigger. sometimes. I guess the only way it was really getting bigger was from the Terra dying.
Hmm.
I had also a little. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say something that really strikes me about your deck is that you have 10 cards in this deck that draw you a card that have some sort of drawing card staple to them. And so that's really good for the velocity of your deck to really start pumping out these like really high end premier removal spells with Extinguish the Light. And then you really get into that Tolarian Terror, but then all the time garnering advantage, by getting that extra card, 2-for-1ing them essentially every time you're playing these kind of spells. And so I'm sure that helped with the synergy of just getting your deck over the hump of these decks that may not have been so well tuned as this.
So I will note, I do want to note that while that like is definitely true, a lot of my cards replace themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really 2-for-1s, right? Like,
yeah, it's usually
they're
just
1-for-1s.
Yeah.
But I want to say that was pretty interesting because I felt the same way coming into this. I was like, I have tons of draw, like I'm gonna be fine. Yeah. I almost never won a game that I had more cards in hand than my opponent. Almost never.
Yeah. Well, you don't have any true like card advantage cards. I mean, they're all one. Rangers. They just replace themselves.
Rangers are.
Yeah. Rangers are card advantage, and Choking Miasma's card advantage, and that's
like
about
I'd say
it, right?
A true drawing spell. Like everything just seems to replace itself, but you don't have something that draws you like 2 cards, that draws you 3 cards. Something like that.
Yeah, Phyrexian Espionage I think would have been pretty good in this, but I don't know what I would have cut for it, honestly, like looking back. Maybe in a impede momentum, but
yeah, probably.
I also had like a little side archetype of defenders in here. I had the Walking Bulwark, which is a 0/3. You can pay 2 and give something haste, and it uses its toughness instead of its power. Give a defender haste and uses toughness for its power.
Did it do work for you?
Yeah, they all did. Like Walking Bulwark won me a game. Coral Colony, the 1/4 you can pay 2 and mill for defenders. I won a game milling someone. The 2/4 Gibbering Barricade just held down the ground. It was so hard to get by, and then honestly never drew the 1/3 search except for once, and the 1/3 search was so utility. Like, do I need a 2/4 to hold down the ground? Do I need a 0/3 to help me attack? Do I need a 1/4 to help me dirtle? Yeah, like what do I need right now? And it just helps me find it. Like, although my defenders sound the same, like 0/4, 1/4, 2/4, they're also different. And not only that, the guy just lets you have an efficient next turn. You play the 1/3 defender on 4. On turn 5, you're spending all your mana if you have a selection of defenders to grab. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's just such an efficient turn. It's just that's what makes it so good.
Yeah.
I had 2 Talus Lookouts. My only graveyard recursion was the Eerie Soul Tender. I was really hoping for Urborg Repossession. I only saw 1 the entire draft, pack 1, pick 5. And I wasn't even sure what colors I was going to be in, but I do regret passing it. I don't even remember what I took over it, but it was probably something stupid.
I think now that I'm looking at it, I think the Eerie Soul Tender probably looks like the worst card in your deck. Did you ever recur anything?
Yes, I sure did. I recurred a Tolarian Terror when he costed 1, and it was pretty good. Several games of Tolarian Terror costed 1. The mill self was like good, but it would have been better with the Urborg's Repossession, right? That's the sorcery, 1 black. Get a creature back and kick it for 2. Get a creature and a permanent back and gain 2 life. And you actually gain a 2 life whether you kick it or not.
What do you think about the enchantment, the one that mills and does all the stuff?
It was top 6 cards in my deck, honestly.
Yeah. I remember when you were building it, you were thinking about cutting it. I was like, no, Ryan, no.
There was a time that I did cut it. Andrew actually told me to cut it for Impulse, and you told me to cut Impulse for it.
Hell no.
And so I ended up just cutting a land instead. But it was just always an extra Extinguish the Light. One time I was playing against black-green aggro deck. I had a bunch of Root Wallas, and it had like Ragers and the 2/2 that whenever a creature dies, scry, and Urborg Repossession. I Choking Miasma hit 3. He Urborg Repossession, played the whole board out again. And then I used the enchantment to get, he's like, are you gonna Miasma again? And I was like, yep. He's like, are you really? Yeah. And so I used the enchantment on 3 to get it back and play it again. And it was just GG. Like, it was just like insta scoop there pretty much. Wow. And that just, Choking Miasma was just, the ceiling of it is just so absurdly high that if you're ever in a deck where you can afford a double pick black card, you just play it. I mean, worst case scenario, you're just getting 1 dude from it, and that's fine. You know what I mean? Like, you can swing and set it up. Like, there's so much stuff you can do to make it better. And with these black, blue, black, white, Esper controls, like oriented decks, it's really not going to kill most of your stuff. And I even let it kill one of my Talus Lookouts, and I drew a card from it, and it was fine. Like it's fine.
That seems okay for sure.
What?
Like
Yeah.
definitely doing that. The thing that I noticed about your black blue deck is it seems a lot more proactive. Like it's like a more of a Ryan black blue deck than like I usually get.
Yeah, I felt like it was going to be a more dirtily deck, but I was definitely the
It
aggressor
definitely wasn't.
more
And I
often
could
than
tell
not.
just by looking at it. You have like 3/2 flyers and stuff.
Yeah.
And like the Academy Drake too.
Yeah, but like if you're saying Eerie Soul Tender is the worst card on my deck, that's a pretty good deck, right?
Yeah. What do you think his worst card is, Andrew?
I think it's the Eerie Soul Tender as well. But I mean, that's pretty.
It's like kind of okay though. Like if you
fine.
tell me it costs 6 mana to play another Tolarian Terror, you could probably sell me on that for sure.
Yeah. That happened a couple times.
How do you feel about Impede Momentum? That's a curious one to me too.
So Impede Momentum was
never
there
sure.
to shore up the aggro matchup, right?
Did it?
It did, and it I sideboarded it in a few times. I had another copy that I sideboarded in a few times for like if I knew I had inevitability on my side, right? Like I'm gonna win the game if this game goes long. Against certain archetypes, Boros aggro, any sort of aggro deck with no card advantage. I'm sideboard Impede just to make it to that inevitability point. But some, likewise, some decks that had the better late game than me, I could side it out for stuff too. I think it was honestly Impede was probably like my worst card in a lot of matchups, but in some matchups it really saved me.
Yeah.
And it was a fine game ender too. Like there would be times where people would feel pressured, but they feel like they had like a little clock of their own. They had 2 attacks, they win, or they start attacking into me because they're seeing loss. So they attack with their dudes and then they leave back 1 blocker and then impede and win. Just nip that stuff, But
what were you most afraid of with this deck? Like what deck would have scared you the most sitting across from?
I think any big green dummies deck, honestly.
Yeah.
You're kind of removal light in a weird way, right?
Yeah, I'm super removal right? Like I have 2 extinguishes and that's like it pretty much.
Yeah.
I have 2 extinguishers, 2 geysers.
You have 3 extinguish the lights because you have the
saga
spell.
Yeah, for sure. And that's basically the saga was basically almost always an extra copy of extinguish. Almost.
Yeah, for sure.
I think there was one time I used it as a geyser just because I was gonna win the game because like I had a geyser in hand and a geyser in the yard and I just double bounced. But other than that, it was always extinguish or choking miasma. Like either way, it was always something good. But yeah, it was a solid deck, solid all around, nothing wrong with it. I mean, if Eerie Soul Tender and Impede is my worst card, then deck's good. I'm really high on Impulse now, but I do think Impulse doesn't go in every deck, obviously still, but I think it's amazing in the blue-black spells deck, which is not revolutionary by any means. Yeah. So what about you, Roby? What was your deck looking like?
So my deck looked very similar to to Ryan's. I had just basically an Esper removal pile. Like I had Tribute to Urborg, the 1 and a black, give something -2/-2, or you can kick it and give it -X, where X is the number of instant sorceries in your graveyard. I had Choking Miasma, which is the board wipe that Ryan was talking about. Rona's Vortex, the bounce spell that you can pay an extra 3 and put stuff on the bottom. Essence Scatters, the counter target creature spells. Destroy Evils, Runic Shot. Destroy Evil destroys the creature with power, with toughness 4 or greater. And Runic Shot, the one that destroys the 1 mana Swords to Plowshares that gets tapped creatures. And I had a couple better top end rares for the deck for sure. I had the Defiler of Dreams, the double blue, 3 colorless, the flying 4/3 that you basically, whenever you play a blue permanent, you get to draw a card, which was doing some pretty absurd work for me. Drag to the bottom, the board wipe that has domain, you get creatures get -X, where X is 1 plus the number of basic land types you control. And then I had Silver Scrutiny, which just draws the X card draw spell, where you draw X cards and it's double blue. And I also had a pretty light wall package, which was mostly just in there. I had 2 Shield Wall Sentinels, 2 Academy Walls, and a Gibbering Barricade. And it seemed okay. But yeah, I ended up going 2-1. I got wrecked by red-green aggro deck in the first match, and just ended up going 2-1. But I won all my other games, but the first one got me.
Was drag to the bottom that much better than choking my asthma?
Yes. Especially like it really helped shore up those green matchups. Okay, where like I needed to get that extra point or two. Being able to hit 4 was like the magic number for me. Cause like if I could hit 4, I could kill like basically everything. And that's usually what I was trying to get with it. But
Did you feel too creature light in your loss? Was that the problem?
see, honestly, yes. I think that's where your deck would have done better in that specific matchup because you had all the Phyrexian Ragers, and I had 2 other creatures that I didn't talk about. I had the Elias Ilkor, the one that whenever you play a creature, you gain a life, and whenever a creature dies, your opponent loses a life. I had that, and I also had the White Defiler, which was probably the worst card in my deck, but it was just a 5/5 for 5. But
Of your entire removal suite, which one was the worst?
they kind of were all very good. Probably choking my asthma. Honestly.
Wow. I'm
Yeah.
so high on that.
Well, like drag to the bottom just did it better, right?
Well, yeah.
The only benefit I ever got from like choking my asthma was it wouldn't kill my Defiler, my blue Defiler.
So I think counterintuitively, choking my asthma is good when you have some bodies, just because you can set it up and manipulate it.
Yeah, I didn't have the access to the green mana, which was
Yeah.
one. I kind of wish I would have been able to get a green white or a green duel, but I couldn't find any at the table.
So were you solidly in 3 colors for your mana base, or did you splash other?
Kind of. I was mostly splashing white. I had 2 basic planes, and I had 2 black-white duels.
So it must have been really hard to cast the double white.
I never had any trouble.
Defiler.
You
You never had any trouble with any of these because
No.
you got a couple double pit blues, a couple double pit blacks, you have a double pit
I
white.
genuinely didn't. So what I'm not showing is all the card draw that I had too. I also had the Phyrexian Espionage. I had Impulse. I had a couple and the Academy Walls too. I kind of count as card draw. And I really had no trouble with my mana really. A little bit here and there, but nothing too crazy.
So if you could pick 2 commons to add to your deck to make you 3,
I would put 2 Tolarian Terrors, and then I think I could have got there.
Okay.
Like the fact that I had none of those, and I had to like rely on Defiler of Dreams basically as like my one win con. I also had the white Defiler, which he was kind of just a dumb 5/5, but
Yeah, it honestly looks like a little bit of evasion or something would have went a
I had
long way.
an Academy Drake and a Thalia's Lookout too.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
But yeah.
Maybe not a Thalia's Lookout. Yeah, but I also had the Giant.
Which one's that one?
I'm mainly just showing the removal package I had. I think I might have gone a little too in on removal.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how many each of those copies you had.
I had 2 of basically all of them except the choking miasma and the runic shot.
I'm shocked you had that much and you lost to like an aggro menace deck. Did he just have tricks?
It was very, 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 very close. Like I was about to stabilize and he just had a good top deck. I got rolled in game 1, but in game 2 I figured it out. And I got he sideboarded in the threaten, and that's what killed me. For no reason. Like that was like it seemed super incorrect when he did that. I was like, really? Like a threaten to get
with all the menace guys, like it sounds good to me to with all the menace guys and to just grab at one of your, few blockers.
Yeah, he grabbed the Defiler, which he didn't see in game 1, had no idea I had it. Like all he saw in game 1 was just like 03's walls, 05 walls, and decided to threaten to kill me. Yeah,
but if he's like playing a bunch of menace and he sees a board that doesn't have a lot on it, threaten's a pretty good way to convert that into a win, right?
Yeah. I just wasn't able to draw my drag to the bottom or choking my asthmas, and that's what ended up getting me in those games. But All my other games are good.
Yep, sounds
We're-
good. We're gonna do a grudge match on this later. We'll post the VODs on YouTube.
Yeah, because what'd
Yeah.
you say whenever you saw my deck, Ryan? You said
I thought it was better
I'm
than
gonna
mine.
trade you. like
Yeah, I thought it was better than mine. But sometimes
it's
I'm wrong. Believe it or not.
one controversial pick that I took Rona's Vortex over Extinguish the Light.
No, that's
You guys
good.
think
I
That's
would do
fine,
that.
yeah.
I would do that without any questions ever asked.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, cause I'm like 3 life. My reasoning behind that was because I was hoping to see a Micromancer.
I mean,
Yeah,
but it's like better, right? Like some
It is better,
creatures
right?
some creatures
It's
do stuff when they
comparable.
die, Talus Lookout and stuff, and there's indestructible tricks and all that, and this gets around all that stuff.
Yeah,
Rona's Vortex is just better if you're in blue black.
yeah. The 3 life is nothing to scoff at though.
That's
Like
true.
sometimes, like especially in like when your win cons are kind of like janky, I feel like it kind of helps a little bit too.
Yeah. Yeah, the life gain, incidental life gain came in big in my deck a few times.
I had a Tolarian Geyser in my sideboard, but I kind of don't know if I should have played.
Wow. That's like yes.
Whoa,
you should have
that's
played
really
it.
bad.
Yes.
But
I
like,
think that may have
look
been a
at my
mistake.
removal and
You
look at
should
how
play
it
it.
removes.
I
all
think
of
it
it.
You're in the
mistake.
cut. Like, do you know
Yeah.
the stats on Tolarian Geyser?
I know they're good. I know it's a good card.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel like I had room for it.
It just draws you to other good cards and just gives you the time
Yeah.
to get to your Defiler, to get to your other big things. I just think that might have been a mistake.
It's the
Yeah.
third highest win rate behind Shield while sitting on Extinguish the Light.
I will say that Destroy Evil was always live in my
Yeah.
hands. Like
I wanted to note that it was kind of funny that you said it destroys a creature at Thumbs for a grade, and you didn't say anything about the enchantment because it doesn't
Yeah,
even
'cause it
ever
doesn't
kill
matter.
enchantments. Like,
I don't know. I've gotten got by that a few times.
I've
actually.
done it too on Arena. I've never done it in paper
Yeah.
though.
On Arena, it's gotten my what's the card called? The Cruelty of Grix.
Yeah.
It's actually gotten me before when I've done the first chapter, and then they destroy evil it in response. I was like, oh man, that's pretty bad,
Yeah.
And so it was actually corner case pretty good, especially against some of those really broken enchantments out there.
Yeah.
I think in
hit,
this deck specifically too, like the Destroy Evil is super necessary because what kills you is creatures with toughness grade 4 or greater, right? Like,
yeah, this is what we just talked about, right?
Yeah,
Last
for
week with the
sure.
Esper deck. Exactly. The Destroy
Yeah.
Evil. This is the perfect deck for Destroy Evil. But with the Essence Scatters, I don't know how many you had, but with the Essence Scatters and all that, I would have 100% put Tolarian Geyser in over Academy Wall and never thought twice about it.
So this is where I think you're wrong. Okay. Because in my deck, Academy Wall kind of has whenever it enters the battlefield, draw a card because I have the Defiler of Dreams and I was pretty low on blue permanents. Just having the extra blue permanent, I think
That's like a if I have this and I have
Yeah.
this scenario.
Okay, but
That's
like,
like
most of the time I do have that because like I have a shit ton of card draw and a shit ton of like removal.
but not on the games you lost because they were too fast. You know what I'm saying? That's what
Yeah.
Tolarian Geyser helps you shore up. Not only does it cost them an entire turn because it undoes their turn, it also gains you 3 life for a turn for you. Because the later this game goes, the more likely you're going to win against probably 90% of decks. You know what I mean?
Just have to really stretch to even hit the kicker on that. You're already
You're already playing the colors. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was just there for the taking.
Yeah, that was one.
Mm.
One card that I was kind of iffy on it.
Yeah.
I guess the draw card is good, but
You'll be iffy on it until you actually play it a few times.
I've
and then
played it a
you'll-
few times,
yeah,
but
it's-
I just don't respect it enough yet.
It won me at least 2 games on Friday Night Magic. I had 2 of them. It won me at least 2 games by itself. Like I'm sure other removal would have been similar, but the 3 life won me one of those 2 games. So like
Yeah.
in a net, like hard removal would have been similar for one of the games, but in the other game, the 3 life was huge.
Yeah, I felt the same way as you did. Like big green dummies was like horrifying to this deck. I only have a couple ways to deal with them, but
Yeah. It's becoming a real viable strategy, I think. As the
green
format's
dummy.
been going on, you kind of realize that there's some vulnerabilities there that maybe Destroy Evil kind of helps shore up, or
So
even
I think
mix shots.
the blue black decks have 2 win cons. Okay, you can either go one of 2 ways. You can either be like a Shield Wall Sentinel Wingmantle Chaplain deck, that's the best version.
I think
Or
Blight Pile and the Mill are both fine too.
that's absolutely well, like Blight Pile is a trap.
No, it's a 3/3 defender for 2. It's super good.
It's really
It's
good.
a trap to try and win with Blight Pile, is what I'm saying.
I think it's about the same
stat-
clock as the Coral Colony, right?
No,
I
no,
think
no,
so.
no, 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 no. It also costs more mana. So, like, if you look at the stats on Blight Pile stats are actually pretty low. Like, even lower than Coral Colonies. I think Coral Colonies is a better actual win condition. Because, you can also, you can leave more mana up. I don't know. I've been super down on Blight
It's
Pile.
slightly
It's actually-
lower. Blight Pile's improvement when drawn is 4.2 and Coral Colony's 4.5. They're both.
But how
very
much
good.
of that is because you can tap it for 3 mana and deal damage to your opponent?
That's probably the whole difference, but the difference is like 0.3%.
I don't know.
The whole that's the whole difference is the mana cost, but the 3/3 for 2 is super good.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's holding
yeah.
off quite a bit of creatures more than the
One thing that I've
1/4.
noticed is that the 4th point of toughness is more important than the 2 extra points of power because it blocks 3/3s.
Yeah, but the one kills 3/3s. Like it's fine either
Yeah.
way.
It
It's fine
trades,
either
right?
way.
But like, how
I think
much
they're
are you
both
wanting to
equally
trade in
good.
your defender deck?
All the time. I'm down to trade every game.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think
Uh,
that's kind of playing it wrong though, because then you're
Really?
yeah,
Whoa.
because then your coral colonies aren't popping off as hard. Your wingmantle chaplain's not popping off as
Well,
hard.
I've never
get
had the
your-
true I'm gonna win with
you get
defenders
your-
deck. My defenders is always a sub package.
Yeah, that's how it was in this deck too. It's
Even
like,
in my last week's deck, it was a sub package too. I had like 4 defenders, and it was still pretty good. I think that's something that we're seeing a lot of now. Is just a lot of sub defender theme is actually pretty decent.
Yep, you can just you just get a toolbox for free.
Yeah, it's like a Micromancer clone, right? Like you just
Yeah,
go find whatever
yeah.
you need.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
Micromancer got you 05s.
Yeah. Or 2/4s, which
Or
In this
two-four.
deck,
I get
Shield
more.
in this deck, Shield Wall Sentinel basically just said, whenever it enters the battlefield, grab a blue permanent. Like that was my main use for it.
Seems like you're pretty fortunate drawing your Defiler.
Yeah.
I had impulses and stuff too. Like I was
Okay.
working for it. I was working
Okay.
for it. I had Phyrexian espionage. I was drawn. Silver Scrutiny did insane amounts of work.
Yeah, it's really strong.
Yeah, no, it looks good. I'm excited to beat you on Arena later.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a steamroll by me. I think it'll be a super close game. We'll see what happens. I'm eager. Like I'm not
Yeah.
gonna be shocked if you just
My
remove me,
removal
honestly.
package is a lot heavier than yours, but you also have all the value creatures, right?
Yeah.
Which
It'll
is
be kind of a good barometer, honestly, because there's the
Yeah,
decks
because
are-
I'm not sure whether or not it's better to be more pro. I'm starting to lean towards it might be better to be more proactive.
Yeah, because like on first glance, your deck just looks just like amazing.
Close, right? Like,
Yeah.
and if it's
And my first glance, mine didn't. Did it? Like I didn't. Yeah.
well, the 2 Tolarian Terrors, I know that's good. But like seeing like the eerie Soul Tender and shit, like I was like, oh, I got
I
him.
think if I'd have really looked at it again and give it a second look and seen like how actually thin your deck really is, like with all the cards that replace themselves, then you have a really strong deck core there. You know, realistically, how many cards is this deck? Your Ryan's deck really is. You know, with the
I had
impulses
more
that replace
cards
themselves,
than
with the
honestly.
Tolarian, with 10 cards that basically replace themselves. Like
Yeah.
that's pretty strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
and
kind
then-
of had a lot of card draw though.
yeah, I mean you did too, for sure.
I mean, you had a lot of raw card draw too. If you think about it, with
Yeah,
with the
like
scrutiny, you're
actually-
drawing
yeah.
3 cards.
The difference
Oh.
is my card draws were on a stick a lot of the time.
Yeah,
yours were-
yeah.
and
like,
then
that's
yeah,
probably-
I don't know why you guys are hating on the 80 Soul Tender so much. I still think it's good.
Yeah, it's us. All your other cards look better. But
I'd rather have Airport Repossession, but
yeah, Airport Repossession is just better, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, now time for the funnest. I've been looking forward to this.
I haven't too.
It's night. Oh boy, Andrew's FNM recap. Let's hear it.
Hey, yeah, I had a really good FNM this week, except I didn't. Nah, I went 0-2 drop. It was a 3-color pile. Is basically what I can say. It was black, blue, and green. I did have like a tinge of red in there, and it was more for the domain, just trying to get that extra little bit there. But I think my error really went into this deck was just a deck construction error. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 double pip cards in my deck in a format where really you want to be 2-color splashing. To have 8 double pips almost like flat against the 3 in black, 3 in blue, 2 in green was just not conducive to really just a good curve out or to getting anything going. I'd be constantly stuck with cards that I couldn't cast in my hand. And so that was a pretty big deck construction error. I knew something was up when I started doing my lands, and I had this flat split between. I had 5 dual lands, and then I had a flat split between like 4 and 4 and 4, and that's when I knew I was in trouble. Yeah, that's when I knew I was in trouble because I was like, oh, my deck is balanced in 3 colors. And that's not really what you want to be doing when you're when you're constructing that. It's not really what you want to see. You want to see somewhere where you're actually just splashing into it. My removal in this deck was pretty decent. I had 2 tributes to Urborg. That's the -2/-2 with kicker for 1 blue and 1 colorless that you get to give them extra -1 for each different instant sorcery in your graveyard. I had a Bone Splinters, a Bite Down, and I also had a Extinguish the Light, and I thought the removal package was pretty decent. I was kind of underwhelmed at times by the tribute to Urborg, but then again, like it was just really tough to get past. The decks that I did play this week were the big green deck. It was a Gruul deck that just really tried to get to upper curve type things, and so it got kind of outclassed by those kind of 4 toughness, 5 toughness creatures that you get up there. You really have to start kicking the tribute to Urborg so they really start making you work for it. And I just didn't have the ground creatures to really start trading efficiently with those guys. When you have a 5/4 on the board, it's very hard to just trade with that 1-for-1 with your creatures. Urg Spawnaturg really did overperform. If I was shaving down this deck, I probably would have tried to go more towards the green-black and then maybe splashing into blue. I thought the Haughty Djinn would have been really good with all the draw 2s that I had. I had Phyrexian Espionage and Shadow Prophecy, and it did feel good when you're doing those on 2 to draw 2 cards, but it just really, the mana was my biggest hurdle to get over in this deck. There were constant times where I was really just struggling to kind of keep up with the decks just on mana alone. And then something else that kind of happened as well, there was it was just a little bit tougher too with some of the creatures I was playing. I didn't really have any good low to the ground creatures that could really start effectively trading. I did have 2 Micromancers in the deck, which were pretty good, but this deck was just so mana hungry that if I didn't hit my land drops or I got mana screwed a little bit, that was really rough. And then, I did have, to be fair for the deck, I did get kind of mana screwed and color screwed in a couple of games. The color screw is kind of what it is. It's a 3-color deck that has a flat distribution of colors, so that's kind of to be expected. The mana screw, it happens, and then I got really horribly flooded in my second round game 2. I think I drew 4 real cards and I drew like 10 lands, so I really wasn't winning that game. But yeah, that's kind of what happened. It was just make sure to really beware of your double pip cards when you're doing your deck construction.
What did your mana look like? What did your split? I mean, not your split, but like your split lands.
Your source count?
Yeah.
Right.
No, just like which ones did you have?
As far as the double lands?
Yep.
For the double lands, I had Haunted Mire, which is black-green. I had a Geothermal Bog, which was black-red. The Tangled Islet. Islet? Yeah, that's green-blue. And then I had the Molten Tributary, which is blue-red. And then I also had another Geothermal Bog. So I had that red splash for some domain payoffs that I had in the deck. But as far as the distribution of lands inside my deck, it was like 4-4-4.
Do you think that maybe you didn't value the lands highly enough? Did you not see them?
Yeah, I didn't see quite a bit, and the ones that I did see, I started to try to pick up. I really should have valued more the on-color ones than the off-color ones, and just said I'm going to get a less payoff on my domain strategy. And it probably would have shored up a lot of the matches.
It seems like those red splashes were pretty greedy.
It was really greedy. I really wanted to maximize.
What were your domain payoffs?
I had I had a Gaia's Might, I had some red cards that I did want to splash for, namely the Fires of Victory, which is
Oh man.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's really strong. And then I also had the Bortuk Bone Rattle
Yep.
to get back things. So you want to be able
Yeah.
to,
So that's a good payoff
yeah,
usually.
it was some good payoff there. Yeah, that was just a big. If I'd have just let it go, I think I would have had a better deck. Just maybe really focusing on those duels that really helped me get my colors, especially when you see like a Haughty Jid next to a spawn of Urg. That's a lot of solid color mana. Like there's really no way to play both of those or to get consistent double blue or consistent double black in this kind of pile. Yeah, just something to really look out for when you're deck constructing. Just be
So do you
aware of your.
think you could have saved it with more lands or like just better fixing?
I think I could have saved it with better fixing.
Like,
Yeah.
what about would you play like the gardener, like the Death Bloom gardener in this deck?
Or
Or the filter guy. Would he have been good too?
Yeah, even the
filter guy would
filter
have been
guy.
really strong in my deck. Yeah, I think that would have been really good. I got the deck to run pretty well one game where I'd gotten a couple of good early removal spells and was able to get like to 5 mana. I didn't realize even with 3 cost spells in your deck, man, this deck was just so mana hungry. It wanted to double spell all the time.
But yeah, you couldn't just because like it was such a weird mana cost.
Yeah, there were just such constrictions on it. I'm playing something this way, and then you're trying to do like a extinguish the light, which is double black. That's I'm already tapped on like how many black resources I really have. So you can't do like a extinguish the light, then play a tribute in the same turn because I didn't have enough black mana in play.
Okay, I have a hot question for you.
Sure.
You might not like it. So I was 2 down from you in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
There was one person between us.
Yeah.
And we were downstream from you, right? Which in draft, that means you're passing to both of us in 2 out of the 3 packs. You're to our rights. Okay. Yeah. Between us was a guy that made it to the championship round and lost in the championship round 2-0. And then there was me 3-0. He was green-red, which you were in. I was blue-black, which you were in. Mm-hmm. What went wrong in the draft? How did that happen? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it was really just taking those double pip blue cards and not just solidifying myself in 2 solid colors with a splash. That was my real downfall there. I cracked the Haughty Jin and I thought, wow, this is going to be really strong with all these draw 2s that I have, not realizing that I had, a line breaker in my deck, that I had Urg Spawn a Turg in the deck. And then you start taking like, okay, well, if that's the case, then I'm going to take a Frost Strider or I'm going to take like a Talus Lookout. And you're just realizing that you're kind of setting yourself up for disaster there, just because you're not able to get the correct mana there all the time. And so you just have cards that are locked in your deck, or it's just really clunky to play. I thought I should have cut harder, actually, is what I should have done. I was downstream. I knew the black was really good. I should have really cut black as hard as I could.
Yeah, I think what I'm getting at is you let too much through. I think you let too much through to have the best deck that you could have.
Yeah. I think that was basically it. I was trying to take for 3 colors, so I was taking the best in 3 colors every time when I should have just said, I don't need that. I really need a splash. And that was, I went solid 3 colors when I should have been 2 colors with a splash and just said, no, I'm going to take a hard stance.
I kind of disagree with the 2-color splash thing. Like, I don't think that you couldn't do it. I think like if you're going to do a 3-color not splash, you kind of need to be conscious of that. Like I don't think that your deck would have been like that much better if you just 2-color and then splash, right?
Yeah, I think he's really hitting the nail on the head here. I think like he was drafting and didn't realize how many double pips he had until it was too late.
Yeah.
I think is what happened. I think the 3-color deck is fine, but the double pips are just so expensive in those decks. Yeah. And if you guys go back and play last week's episode, I warned you about this last week in Alpha of the Week. I said, be careful those double pips because they will get you. And it's true. I mean, the double pip cards are all good. They're all alluring, but the cost for them, especially if you branch into that 3-4 colors, is absurdly high.
Yeah,
for sure. Like I don't know. I think you could have done it. If you just like took more lands or gardeners
Yeah,
or something.
you just had to focus on the on-color lands more
Yeah,
than
you
the
should
red
have.
splash.
Just
Yeah.
realizing that when you're constructing, it's a little bit easier sometimes when you're
Yeah,
on
in
arena and you can go see
hindsight,
that
right?
stuff. Yeah, it's easier on arena when you start seeing the curve and you have it all laid out in front of you when you're taking your picks, which is really nice. It's something in paper Magic sometimes you really don't see it. You're kind of reviewing sometimes, and you just don't realize how those double pips are really adding up, or how bad your lands really are.
Do you think you could have piloted it better, or do you think you piloted it to the best of your ability?
I think
Did you have
I
any
think
play
I piloted
mistakes?
it
No.
Nah, I thought it was fine. I think my second round matchup probably I piloted just pretty terrible just because I was still reeling from like a
Tilted.
yeah, well no, I took a pretty bad loss against somebody. They did like a basically like a double top deck or something, and it was just the correct amount that they needed to win. I knew it was a top deck because they ripped it from a goblin picker.
Oh,
It was
really?
like pitch a land, okay, drew the one card that I needed to win. And it's like, oh, okay, it's tough taking losses like that, especially after such a long matchup and a good set, to just
Yeah.
lose in a way where you have 4 or 5 cards in your hand ready to win the next turn. And
Well,
they
at
just,
least you took a loss from one of the best red commons, though. So like it's not that big of a deal, right?
Yeah, the goblin picker.
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Oh,
like
no.
Yeah, like you see goblin picker and you just expect to lose, right?
Yeah, I mean they would have lost otherwise had they not had that card selectivity that they were using like through most of the game to filter that. They kept the pressure on once they got to 5-6 mana. They were never drawing. They were just playing a red to just sift through a land every turn. And so they kept the aggression going. And so in that respect, it really kept them with the gas to just power through all the removal that I had, all these big creatures that I had. They were just able to just trample over them, get those little extra points of damage in with their Gaia's Mites, with their Colossal, whatever. And so it just added up after a while. And then, the break in the back there with the last, just I got another business spell. So it's always tough just losing to you when they just top decked it, no cards in hand, top deck the win.
When I looked at your pile, it looked a little removal light. Did you feel that was true?
My pile, no, I felt it was all right. I felt like the things that I had, I had like a Fires of Victory, a Bite Down, a Bone Splinter, 2 tributes to Urborg, an Extinguished Light. I thought that was pretty decent. I don't think I could have. I think if I would have had just maybe another Extinguished Light, it might have been nice. And then the Might's kind of a whatever. But I had like 2 draw 2s, a
Doesn't
joint.
seem like the tributes were super good in your deck. Were they?
No, they felt I had enough to work with, but I didn't feel like they were. If I could have gone back and just taken another Extinguished Light, I would have done that, or even like a Tolarian Geyser or something like that would have been better than the Extinguished Light or they're in the tribute to Urborg. I think they just especially it was more highlighted in the matches I was playing. The guy, was playing 3 toughness creatures.
Yeah, because you passed me my only 2 Extinguished Lights in pack 1.
Yeah, there was. Yeah,
that's what set me in black.
Yeah, my first pick was actually a blue-white creature, and I thought I was going there, and then it just got hard cut. Like I don't know what was going on there, but
was
I didn't.
The blue-white uncommon?
It was the blue-white rare that lowers down a spell cost.
Oh yeah.
And so I thought I was going to be more in the blue-white spells deck for just a quick second, and then I got the Extinguished Light again. I was like, oh man, I just passed an Extinguished Light. I'll take the Extinguished Light now. And so I was like, okay, if anything, I can go Esper, and then the white just dried up completely.
I heard you say something about how you thought Limebreak or Bailout was kind of bad. That's surprising to me, because like this card always horrifies me.
It was like it's just I didn't have enough guys to really enlist against him. And
that was a problem with it. Yeah.
Yeah, he was more of just a defender at that point in the deck, and really he really shines in those other decks where you can where he gets those last points of damage in, or he's trading like triple against somebody because they can't block it with their tokens.
How is Gaia's Might? That seems kind of sus in a deck like this to me.
It was fine, actually. The best thing I did in there was search it up with the Micromancer.
Oh, you had Micromancer? Okay, never mind. I take that.
Double Micromancer in the deck.
Point.
Yeah,
double Micromancer will do it. Yeah,
it was pretty sick because I just had it, and just the fear of that, like, really skewed their play quite a bit. They had to really maneuver around it the rest of the game.
How many other targets for Micromancer did you have?
I had the Bone Shards.
Yep, that'll do it. Yep, that does it.
So it was pretty good. I thought the package was pretty good. It was just the mana was so clunky that it just didn't feel right. Or I had cards that were mana sinks like Urg Spawnaturg, and I also had one of the Black Knight in the set, the Knight of Dusk's Shadow. And so, like, again, I want to be playing spells all the time. I have enough velocity in the deck to keep playing spells. But cards like Urg, Spotted Turd really want you to have mana open at all times. The Knight wants you to have mana at all times.
So do you think your deck would have won if you had, instead of double pip cards, like the worst single color card of that color? Do you think if you replaced it? Like if you replaced Hottie Gen with like an Academy Wall and like...
If I'd have taken the... If I'd have probably looking back at it, if I'd have taken the blue out and just played the red, maybe, or just say that I'm not going to play Micromancer, but it was pretty tough. I mean, I think if I would have had like the Tolarian Geysers instead of any of these double pip blue cards, I think the deck would have been a lot better. Having 3 double pip cards is just really tough in blue. They're strong, but again, you gotta be willing to take the pain to have all that strength there.
Well,
so what was the worst card? What was the worst card? Last one. What was the worst card in your deck?
Oh, worst card in my deck was probably, man, I didn't get to play it, but it probably would have been good had I played it a little bit more. Actually, you'll probably say the worst card in my deck was actually Automatic Librarian.
Oh fuck yeah, God, that's terrible. Yes. That is a
Why are people playing that shit?
I don't understand.
Actually, it saved me a little bit though. The Scry 2 on it was actually pretty playable, and in a deck where I had trouble casting things on 3 because of the double pips, that guy was actually just castable every time.
I have a hot take. If the Librarian's good in your deck is bad.
That's not a hot take at all. That's not a hot take at all.
That's like a super, like...
If you're playing Librarians, you're not winning a tournament.
I don't know about that.
If it seems good, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, it's better in a long line of creatures like that. Like, it's better than the 3/2 blue guy, just because this guy goes in every deck. It's better than the cards that we've seen before that only scry 1 in that kind of spot. But it's not
the put the 3/2 in my deck ever.
Oh wow,
the 3/2 blue guy or him. If I'm playing, I don't know, man. I'm seeing this resurgence of him, and I'm seeing people playing him.
People play him all the time.
He's been championed.
Respect it.
Yeah, he's been championed by a few people online recently. Like, if you're kind of up on some of the other YouTube kind of content creators out there, they've been kind of up on that guy. Mainly, not as like, you have to auto include him, but as I need a 23rd card. That's going to be it. Okay.
The mana filter dude would have been 10 times better in your deck.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, any single pipped card would have been better in your deck than that guy.
That guy had no pips. He was actually no pips. He felt good.
Right, but like any other single pip card that cost 3 would have been better. Besides maybe and honestly, the 3/2 blue guy would have been better. Like, strictly better. You just get a look at 4 or 5 cards, or 3 or 4 cards instead of 2, right?
At that point, yeah, but I don't know if I could have had the pips. I mean, I was having trouble just getting colors. Yeah, the mana was just bad. The mana was bad. I should have taken the higher lands, or more on color lands than the off color ones, trying to get the.
Do you think Crystal Grotto could have went like a long way in your deck? Like, this seems like it needs like 3 or 4 Crystal Grottos.
No, I think even with the Crystal Grotto there, it gets really tough because, again, you want to start double spelling.
Yeah, but
and that doesn't really lean towards double spelling. It leans towards single spelling.
But if you're playing 3/2s to scry, like, also, like, you're getting the scry out of it too.
This is the filter and the scry in a land slot.
In a land slot. Yeah, it's that card's good. I'm way up on Crystal.
I don't think it's bad. I mean, it probably would make it at some point, but I'd rather have it in my splashing. I'd rather have it in my 2-color splashing rather than a solid 3-color deck.
It doesn't help with the main stuff.
I want you guys to know I'm making a vow right now, okay? I will never play the automated librarian unless I can build the red artifact deck with the stupid enchantment, which I'm trying to do for memes. But I will never play it in any deck that doesn't have at least 2 or 3 of those red sagas.
I can't wait.
Ever. I will pass it forever, and if I last pick it, I will still not include it. I will never play the card at FNM unless I get the artifacts deck, which it's not going to happen, right?
For sure not. I don't even think that's a real deck.
I want to make it work. I don't think it's a real deck either. I want to try it though, just for the lulz, for the memes.
That would be funny.
Like the defenders that search, and then a bunch of those Yorias and the bulwark and stuff. You know what I mean?
A bunch of rares. You just need like 6 rares.
No, I want the sagas. I just want the defenders that search, the sagas. Like Like some sort of weird red defender thing.
Yeah, that would be cute.
Yeah.
That'd be
Like I
cute.
don't think it's
I
gonna
like
be
your stuff.
good, but I just want to do it once just to say that I did it.
You have a shit ton of Vanquishers axes.
You mean 4/4 flyers or four
Yeah,
fours?
yeah.
Yeah. I got shit for that, but I mean, there's a time for Vanquisher's Axe. You know, there really is. The set's so balanced too. That's the other thing too. The set's getting really balanced. There's not really any standout like this is bad. You know, some people are saying black was bad, but then you see it again. It's like, damn, black's pretty good. You
Yeah,
know,
well, I agree with you that there's no bad cards, but there are some cards that we were super wrong on and are bad.
yeah. Let's
And
talk about
Roby's
some of
gonna kick us off
Which
with that.
leads us to our next segment, which is time to concede. Like an important life lesson that I've learned in my life is sometimes if you love them, you just gotta let them go. And so these are cards that at the beginning of the format we all loved with all of our heart. But now we realize that it's just not going to work out, and it's time for us to let them go. My first card that I have for this segment is Pixie Illusionist, and that breaks my heart. It's the 1 mana blue fairy wizard, the 1/1 that you can pay 4, 3 and a green to kick it, and it enters the battlefield with 2+1/+1 counters. It has flying, and you can tap it, and target land you control becomes the basic land type of your choice until the end of the turn. This card's ass. Like, it's not good at all. You don't need 1-drops in this format. Like, paying 5 mana for a 3/3 flyer is pretty mid. Like, it doesn't really fix your mana. It's pretty sus, and it has a terrible win rate, and it's kind of just a bad card.
I'm pretty sure that when we were talking about this in the set review, I said if you're using Pixie Illusionist to make your domain deck work, then your domain deck is bad.
That's true.
I think
Yeah,
that's a
I
pretty
think that
fair
rings very
assessment.
true.
yeah, it kind of turned out to be true. I loved it though, but now it's time for me to let it go. And my next one I have, this one's a little bit more controversial, is the Yavimaya Sojourner. The 7 and a green costs 1 less for a 4/6 for each basic land type you control. Like, yeah, you can do it. You can get it out on 3 sometimes if you're like super in Magical Christmas Land. Not even if you're in Magical Christmas Land. It's not the hardest thing in the world, but it's just not impactful enough, I think, to really warrant where it's at. And people are taking it way too highly right now. And I just don't think it's as good as I initially thought.
Yeah, like it's like a bonus to have this as like a side in your domain deck when you're gonna, pick 8 after the lands are gone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
when I
think
saw this,
it's
I
not a
thought this
reason to
was
go domain.
yeah,
No.
I thought this was like your biggest payoff, a comment, which
Yeah.
it's not. It's the Outrider, but yeah,
I
it's
think your
time to
biggest
let-
payoff is just being able to play all the good stuff in this
Yeah,
format.
and
Yeah, exactly.
but the best common payoff is like your Outriders, I
Yeah.
think.
Hmm.
But yeah, he just doesn't do enough. He just dies to extinguish the light, destroy evil, gets blocked by Academy Wall. Like, just never performed like I wanted him to.
Yeah, I had mine for my time to concede. I have to let him go. The Shadow Right Priest. I couldn't have been any higher on this guy. Thinking this dude was like the next coming of like just some brutal beat down. You must play this card, warping the format, and I was so wrong. Like, yes, I've been beat down by clerics with this, and other, him alongside other clerics, but I've seen people just shirts up the shittiest, and it's just like the payoff is just not good. They were actually losing by just taking cards away from the board and putting worse cards up there, are cards that I was able to remove even easier than the ones that they were killing. I mean, my goodness, it was just so bad. Not being able to sacrifice himself, I think I missed that. And not realizing how low the clerics are in this set too.
What are your common clerics?
I saw people, was it the 1/3 with
Yeah,
vigilance and enlist? I've seen that guy.
Vanilla Bonder.
Yeah, I think that's the one I've seen more commonly. And it was just like a 2/4 with vigilance attacking was actually reasonable. And then he just transformed it into like a 5/5 monstrosity, which I was able to just get rid of. It's like, I was like, I don't know. It might have been better just to keep beating me down.
What do you give this in
and on
the set
5,
review?
huh?
What'd you give the priest in the set review?
I believe I gave it an 8.
Oh man.
Oh no, I gave it a 9. I take it back. I gave it a 9. I thought it was really, and I thought the payoffs in black were going to be a lot better, and there really isn't, unless you have some. And I don't even think the bombs in black are even worth searching up with this guy. To have other clerics that are really bad in your deck with this guy, probably not the best. So I got to let him go. Another one I got to let go, and I was kind of, this is a different way of I got to let it go that I think it's just so bad that I would never play it. But at this point now, I think I have to play it, and I've got to let it go that it's actually good. It's Territorial Morrow. Because I thought this guy was just complete garbage. Like, I thought just a big, dumb vanilla guy for 5 was just terrible. And I see this guy constantly as an 8-8 or a 10-10.
5-mana 10-10.
That is just ready to stomp. Yeah, 5-mana 10-10. That is just ready to stomp all over me when I just don't. I take it for granted. I always think I'm going to have the removal spell in your hand, and sometimes you just don't. And so I've got to let it go that this guy is actually pretty good.
I'm glad you said that because I saw this on the list. I was like, "Oh man, Andrew, you aren't ready for this fight."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
I
good
was going
one.
down swinging until it swung at me and killed me.
It's a good card.
Yeah,
It's a big
good.
dumb
It's
vanilla
good.
10-10.
Yeah, it's a payoff for your domain decks. I mean, it's so good. And even in splashing, a 6/6 or 5 is pretty decent too.
Yeah.
So I gotta let it go. I thought this guy would just be a 4/4 dork or something I could just flick away. And no, it's not. You're not flicking 10/10s away, people.
Yep. All right. Next up, I have Heroic Charge. I called this Overrun, I believe. I'd like to retract my statement. This is not Overrun, nor will it ever be Overrun. It was one of those cards that I was just so excited about just because I love the go wide decks, and I just thought it was going to be there. And the Boros go wide deck isn't even super great, honestly.
Definitely not.
But I think you still play it, but it's more of like your 23rd, 22nd card in your deck. I don't think it's quite the pick one that I was hoping it would be. And Heroic Charge, by the way, is the 2-mana double white because you control get +2/+1, and then you can kick it for 1 in a red to give them trample. Yeah, it's just not even worth it. And even in those decks, like the single tricks seem almost better a lot of the time.
Yeah, the 1/2 mana give something indestructible and lifelink.
Yeah, the 2/2 untap 2 things, the green stuff. I don't know. Guy is my
double team or whatever. Yep.
Yeah.
Guy is my It's like one of the worst. I thought it would be better too. I'm a little surprised.
I wanted it to be better, but it just has not performed, and that kicker just might as well not be there.
Yeah, I mean, I think like it's still going to be good in the decks that it's going to be good in, right? Like in the go wide decks, it's still going to be good in them, but those decks just aren't as good as I hoped they'd be. So I'm not.
Can you play it in walls decks to give all your birds lethal?
You could play anything in walls decks.
Basically.
You have the flexibility. All right, and next up, I talked a bunch of shit about Impulse when we were doing the set review. I kept saying like it's mid, it's a 4, it's good, but it's only gonna make a good deck better, and it's not gonna be that good in a bad deck. But I think in the bad decks, it's actually pretty good because it helps you find what you need when you need it. It makes a worse deck definitely better, just giving you that utility. Obviously, you need some sort of payoffs to just include them in your deck. I don't think they're auto include in every blue deck by any stretch of the imagination, but when you have Tolarian Terrors, I think they are.
Oh yeah.
And if you're playing blue without Tolarian Terrors, I don't know if you're necessarily doing it the right way. I mean, there's definitely some blue decks out there that don't need them, but I do think Impulse brings a lot of median decks to the next level, in my opinion. So I'm willing to say I was super wrong about Impulse. I'm sorry, Impulse. I hope you can forgive me. All right, Andrew, you gonna lead us into the next one?
Yeah, for our next segment, we've got Boomer Mentality. This is just cards that we're so stalwart on. We're not backing down. And I'm not backing down off my boy, Goblin Picker. This guy
Red common.
Yeah, it's a red common for one in a red, 2/2, good stats, regular basic bear, and then he has the great ability of paying one red to discard a card to draw a card. This guy, I had him in my red commons to watch out for. I mean, this guy, I still think he's so good, and there's nothing you can say. I just lost this guy this week. My opponent had him out and wouldn't really have that matchup had he not had Goblin Picker. So Goblin Picker still good, man.
Andrew will feel the sting of defeat from that Goblin Picker for the entirety of this format.
It felt so good to know that a good card was beating me. If it was some BS card, that was really bad that I didn't respect, yeah, I would have been pretty pissed. But it was Goblin Picker, so I had to say, all right, Goblin Picker, do your duty.
I want everyone to know that Andrew didn't even say bye to us. I just looked around and he was gone.
for sure. Like, that's so funny.
And you know why he was so mad? Because he lost the Goblin Picker.
Somebody else knew. Like, it must have been a listener.
Yeah, a listener would know how high I was on Goblin Picker. Respected my... See, look at that. Look at that. Making waves. Making waves, people. Play them. Keep playing them.
That's hilarious.
Next up for the Boomer Mentality segment, I have Molten Monstrosity. This card has a negative win rate on 17 lands, and I think people are just playing it wrong. Back in my day, it worked great. Molten Monstrosity is your 7 mana and a red, so 8 total for a 5/5 that costs X less, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Again, you can't jam this in every red deck, but you can't convince me that it's bad in the decks that it goes in. The green-red deck is going to be super good in. And then, any enlist deck that you're trying to do, it's going to be good in. Anytime this costs 4 or less reliably, which means you have a Maria's Outrider, it's going to be good in.
Yeah.
I saw an opponent cast this for 1 red against me yesterday.
Oh my god.
And it felt real bad.
With the Maru, right? Like, this is a super combo.
Yeah, I mean, it was something else. And the trample on it, don't sleep on that too. Trample might actually be decent.
Was it a Gaia's Might that made this cost only one? Oh my god, that's so disgusting. 2 mana, take an extra 4, and I'm going to play a 5/5.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Gross.
It hurt.
Yeah, I agree. I'm kind of a boomer on this card too. Like, I don't think it's the end of the world. Yeah, to put this in your deck.
Like, it's got to be good, right?
Yeah, it's a 5/5.
No, it's like corner cases. Good.
Like, if you have a 3/3, it's a 5/5 for 5.
Yeah, you can have
like, that's good.
You can top pick this with nothing on the board on 5 mana and just say, why the hell did I have this in my deck?
I think you worry about top decks way more than me.
I feel like I top deck quite a bit in this. Like, I feel like sometimes the situations get a little bogged down in this format too. I've been seeing a lot of like mana flood, but especially when I play on Arena, the games go pretty long. They go pretty long.
I think once you slow down the games, like they talk about in football, once you slow down the games and get in that Zen mode, you don't got to worry about top decking because you're in control the entire time.
I wish I was in control the entire time. I would lose less.
Yeah, I kind of like it though. I've played this in like control decks. Like, genuinely, like, sometimes you just don't have a big creature and you just need a big creature. Sometimes that big creature is bad and costs a lot of mana and doesn't have any place in your deck at all. But sometimes you still need them. And sometimes I'll just put this card in there.
I feel like I'm going against 2 boomers on this card.
Yeah, I'm a boomer on it.
This is the Goblin Picker guy. Jesus.
Yeah, it's such a Goblin Picker.
I'm a real boomer. I'm the one who's just saying.
How high are you taking Goblin Picker now? What pick? Like, pick 5? Pick 6?
Pick 9.
Then
you're not high on him.
I'm wheeling him.
Yeah, because nobody knows the
truth.
truth.
Out into the world to come back to me.
You let him make the choice.
I let him make the choice.
Goblin Picker chooses Andrew.
Yeah.
All right, for my card, I have Academy Wall, my fucking baby. 2 and a blue for the 05 Defender Wall. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. I fucking love Academy Wall. I take it way too high. I put it in every blue deck, and it's probably not as good as I make it out to be.
It's definitely not. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I
fine.
fucking love it.
This
It
is
needs
so
at least one power. If it had one power, it would be insane.
No,
If it
just
had one
turbo
power,
spread
I'd play it.
It's a 05.
Like, don't
It's
get it
like
twisted. I'll play
Outrider.
it. I'll play it sometimes, but not super excited about it.
I
I
played it
think its
last week.
ability is very good, especially when Urborg repossession exists. Like discarding your cards and getting them back is pretty strong. Like I've gone way up on that. And like also just being able to smooth out your draws, discard extra lands you don't need. And
Yeah, I've
gone way up on this.
Yeah.
I think you said something about this being your impulse when we were looking at each other's
Yeah.
decks.
Oof.
This is like poor man's broke bitch impulse. like sometimes
Oh, jeez.
it's, well, impulse doesn't block Mario's outrider.
Impulse
Yeah,
finds
no.
the card that kills Maria's Outrider.
That's real.
So can this though. So can this.
Impulse
It just
just
takes a
act-
little
Impulse
extra.
With a lot of buddies, like this Academy Wall is, I don't know. It's just.
So I think also the fact that you got the searcher, like if you got the searcher in this, it's just like it's an extra thing that you can search up pretty easily.
Yeah, I think it's fine to have one in your toolkit, right? When
Yeah.
you need it. But
Yeah, or 4 or 5.
it's like sometimes you just need to block stuff for a while, right?
Yeah,
and
sometimes
that's
you
fine.
need to cast an instant.
I wouldn't have any trouble sideboarding this card in. Like it's a decent sideboard card. I'd have it there.
No, I think it's main deckable for sure.
I think that's a
Oh
move.
yeah, I love it. Yep, maybe.
I mean, whenever I build a wall toolkit with the 1/3 that searches,
You want one, right? You want
I'll put one
of
in
these.
if I'm in blue.
Because like
Yeah, I'll put one in.
sometimes they have 4/4s and none of the walls block 4/4s except for Academy Wall.
And
How many
sometimes I
other-
have a grip of spells, and I need to block
Yeah,
stuff.
you
Yeah,
need the extra stuff. Yeah, I love him.
I mean,
That's my boy.
how many other blue common walls are there?
None.
0. There's only one
yeah,
common wall
yeah.
in each color.
So by default, this guy has to like. If I had another choice, I'd choose the other choice. Give me something else.
Well, you
If
don't
I-
have to put a blue common wall in your deck, but
Yeah.
I would just for the utility of being able to pick them up through my other guy when I need them.
Yeah,
Like the 1/3 is so good because it just gives you so many options. Do you need a 2/4? Do you need a 2/4 that can draw you cards and stack your stuff? Do you need
Well,
another 1/3 to fill up your board?
sometimes you need the 05.
Yeah, sometimes you just need
Yeah.
the 05. Like
Yeah,
less often than you need all the other ones, but sometimes you need the 05.
that's my
Just to be
baby.
fair, to this card, I did have it in my deck last week that did a 3/0'd.
Yeah, you swung for 5 at me with
In
it.
your Vanquisher's Axe flying deck, you put Academy Wall.
I did. I
Yeah,
swung
yeah.
for 5.
And you're talking trash on it, Academy Wall will
Yeah.
never forgive you.
It's amazing. It's the best with the bulwark too. Like you can't overlook that. Like this is the one you want with your bulwark
It does go well.
because
yeah.
it turns into a 5/5 and it's real
Yeah.
scary. Then.
I did
It
lose a
does turn
game
well
off
with
of a bulwark off rip, making too cool.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
And then I can cut it up.
All right. Sounds good. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
And now for our alpha of the week, introduced by the beta 02 of the week. Ryan, take it away.
O2 drop.
Worst
All right.
record on the podcast so far.
Oh yeah. Get him, Robi. Okay. So I'm gonna do a little bit of a different alpha of the week this time. First off, I'm gonna give you guys some wisdom because I know you need it. So even if your neighbors are taking your colors, even if they aren't taking the stuff you need, the lane's still open. It's still there. You can still drive in it. It's fine. And the second off, I thought I'd go ahead and give you guys a Q&A session to go ahead and ask me whatever you want. I'll answer your questions truthfully, honestly. Like I want to bring you guys up with me. This is not about me looking down on you, anything like that. I just want you to be there with me. So you just get one question and I'll answer it truthfully. Let's start with you, Andrew.
Do you truly think that you can continue to be the alpha every week?
Wow. I'm giving you one wish from the genie's lamp, and this is what you're asking? Okay. Yes. Go ahead, Robi.
How many Jayas do I need to open next week to win?
0, just like I did this week.
Oh man, yeah. That's true.
Wow. Bring the salt,
That's true.
boys. I'll be there next week ready to win it again.
Oh man, it's
Undefeated
I
at
got you
FNM.
I'll be there next week to get you.
Undefeated, undisputed.
We'll
Quick
be
draft
there waiting.
is gonna be the death of you.
I ain't never been scared of a quick drafter, and I ain't gonna start today.
Once we give power to the players, I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there. I'll
Man,
get you.
you're gonna pick up so many bad habits from those quick drafts.
Yep.
I'm ready for it. I will be here all set. I'm not losing Alpha of the Week. It's not happening. It will never happen.
All right, that's a quote.
Alrighty,
I can't
sounds
wait
good.
till next week when you're beta and you have to just eat some humble pie as Robi's the alpha of the week. Robi, you better win this.
Is an O3 drop? Is an O3 worse than the O2 drop, or is that even better than the
No, it's so much
No,
worse.
it's better. O3's better.
O3 is better? Yeah, because dropping.
You gotta take your
Yeah.
punishment and you gotta learn from it.
Oh, God.
You gotta sit there and eat the shit that you don't want to. You gotta eat the dog shit sometimes, and that's your doing it.
It's true.
You gotta sit there and be mad, and you should be mad at nobody but yourself.
Dear listener, just know that I went home and drafted a 6-2 deck afterwards.
Dear listener, I want you to know that Andrew, as soon as the draft was over, said, "God, I hope you're not in black." To me, he said that. You believe that?
That's hilarious.
All right. Well, that's our show, guys. Thanks for tuning in. As always, we'll see you next week.